One of our lecturers, who happened to come to Swami in the early 70s, like all of us, had the habit of writing many letters to Swami. Not that he had a lot of things to ask, but just to express his love and devotion, he would constantly write letters to Swami. So one day, Swami walks up to him and asks him, "In some letters you write to me saying, 'Swami, you're my God.' In some letters you say, 'Swami, you're my best friend.' In some letters you say, 'Swami, you're my mother.'" Swami asked, "Why do you keep changing your role, my role in your life? Why do you keep changing my relationship between you and me?" His teacher was a little surprised. He said, "Because Swami, aren't you everything for us? Don't we say, 'Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva'? You're my mother, you're my father, you're my friend, you're my relative, you're everything to me." But here was Swami telling, "Why don't you fix this relationship between you and me?" Because a very beautiful Telugu verse which Swami would quote, a Telugu line written by a great poet, "Enta matramu evaru talachina anta matrame nenu," which means God is everything. God cannot be comprehended. You and me trying to understand Swami is like standing in front of the ocean with a thimble in hand and saying, "I'm going to measure the waters." There is no way I or you or any of us here can comprehend him. But the way we look at him is what he is to us. So then this lecturer said, "Swami, then can I relate to Swami as a mother? Because that's the most dearest to me." And Swami said, keep that relationship, but keep it fixed. Because in this process of fixing a relationship with Swami and endeavoring in the same path, there is a lot of benefit to be accrued. I'm going to present before you another example of how we can relate to Swami and how the way Swami operates in our life changes with how we relate to Swami. Now imagine I'm a student. I've gone through a year of academic rigor, learning, practicals, and all those kind of internals and externals. At the end of the year, I'm giving my annual exam. So there's a question paper in front of me. I write the answers, and I send it to an examiner. And typically, the examiner doesn't know whose paper he's correcting, right? That's how at least in India, it's very, very important. That's one of the ways they keep the process corruption-free. So the examiner has no clue who you are, where you come from, what is your background. All that he knows is the answers that are in front of him in that paper. If you have a right answer, you get the marks. If you have a wrong answer, you lose the marks. If we were to come in front of Swami and give Swami the role of an examiner in our life, which means I carry on with my life the way I think it has to be lived. I have my own idea of right and wrong, good and bad, right choices, wrong choices. So I lead my life the way I think it has to be led. And then I come in front of Swami and say, "Swami, reward me or punish me as you see fit." Then I give Swami the role of an examiner, and the role of an examiner is very limited. When we give this role to Swami, we are limiting his grace. It is not that Swami doesn't know us, but this is the role we have called him to play, and that is the role he will play. Once one of my lecturers, when he was a student, he was sitting in the mandir. Swami comes up to him and all of a sudden pulls him up and says, "What is the distance between you and me?" Right? He was just about 5 or 6 feet away from Swami, and Swami suddenly looked at him and said, "What is the distance between you and me?" He didn't know whether he has to answer in meters or feet or inches or what is the metric to use. Swami, of course, does not ask anything which is trivial. It's always profound. And Swami looked at him and said, the distance between you and me is the distance between me and you. The distance between you and me is the distance between me and you. Meaning, if you think God is far, He is far. If you think God is dear, He is dear. The distance you place between you and God is the distance there is between God and you. So if I want to give a different role to Swami, I don't want to relegate Swami to the role of an examiner. Imagine I go to Swami and say, Swami, you become my teacher. You teach me the lesson. At the end of it, you examine me. And once you examine me, you give me the marks. You give me the reward, you give me the punishment. Now, when we do that, we are giving a larger role to Swami in our life. And if I were to get ahead of myself a little bit, imagine when your teacher becomes an examiner. The moment she looks at your paper, he looks at your paper, he knows the student. There are some times in the heat of the moment, in the tension, we might write a wrong answer. But the teacher will look at the answer and say, no, but in the class when I asked him the question, he answered right, which means he knows the answer. He must have just missed it here. It's all right, let me give him the mark. You give a larger scope for Swami's grace in your life when you give him this role of a teacher, of an examiner, and the one who rewards you in the end, isn't it? But to be able to do that, two things are important. One, as I said, we must want Swami to play that role. He will not force himself upon us. Once when Swami was talking to the students, Swami said this very thing. Swami said, God never forces surrender. The surrender must come from you. At the moment of creation, at the moment of separation, however you'd like to see that, Swami says, I have given you free will. Now you must choose to offer that free will to me. You must choose to come and surrender that free will to me. I will not do that. So the first thing is we should want Swami to play that role in our life. The second point is, how do we get him to play that role? As I said, if I'm going to relegate Swami to the role of an examiner, I tell him, I know how to lead my life. I know what is right, I know what is wrong, I know how to live, I know what to eat, I know how to live my life. But when I say, Swami, you become my teacher, which means I tell myself, I will define my life with your words. Your teachings will decide how I live. Your teachings will decide what I do with this life, isn't it? So the first step is really to want Swami to play that larger role in our life. And the second step is to start defining our life with his message. And when we start doing this, what happens when we give this role of a teacher to Swami? We were talking about going to Uravakonda, right? When Swami was staying with his brother Seshamaraju, he declared, he came back. There was one person who was very disappointed with Swami's declaration. And that was Seshamaraju Garu, Swami's elder brother, because he thought he would have made a fine clerk. He became Sai Baba. He would have been a fine clerk in the government office. So one day he writes a letter to Swami saying that, what are you doing? You're going to get yourself into deep trouble. And Swami writes a letter back to him. It's a very, very epochal letter. It's a very beautiful letter and we hold it very dearly. So in that letter, Swami makes a very, very important point. Swami says, in Telugu, he says, Cheipatti kapadute vratamu naku. He says, I have come to guide, I have come to teach you, but in what manner? Cheipatti kapadute vratamu naku, to hold your hand and walk you to the path, to the goal. Not simply to show you, like how anybody asks us, where is the Western canteen? We'll say, go straight, take left, and ask somebody there. No, Swami has not come to guide us like that. Swami says, Chaipatti kapadute vratamunaku. I have come with a vow that I will hold your hand and I will walk you every step. Which means the path is going to be customized for you. And Swami says, I am here to walk you on the path which is right for you. Chaipatti kapadute vratamunaku. Not to simply give you directions, but to hold your hand and customize the path for you. We all have heard that famous shloka in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, Sambhavami yuge yuge. Right? When there is a fall in dharma, when the pious are suffering, Swami says, Krishna says, Sambhavami yuge yuge. Every age I manifest myself to protect those who suffer. Right? The good ones, the pious ones who suffer. Once while speaking about that shloka, Swami says, not Sambhavami yuge yuge, Sambhavami pade pade, Swami said. Yuge yuge is once in a yuga, once in an eon. Swami said, I am giving you a word, not Sambhavami yuge yuge, Sambhavami pade pade. Every step I will manifest to guide you. What a reassurance that is. He says, every step I will walk, I will hold your hand. But for that, we must ask Swami to play that role in our life, isn't it? We must say that, I don't want you to be only an examiner, I want you to be my teacher. I want you to tell me what is right and wrong. I want you to tell me how this life has to be led. When you say that Swami plays this role, the next role that you want him to play is that of an invigilator, right? The next role, as we always have it, the teacher has finished his lessons, you've been taught what you have to be taught, then he sets a paper. He creates a test for you. And Swami says, see, since I am the teacher, I know your capacity. And the test I give you will always be within your capacity. Oftentimes we think that, Swami, I can't bear this. Swami says, no, I will never give you something that you cannot bear, because I know your capacity, because I am your teacher. So when Swami puts us through a test, he pretty much knows what he is putting us through. But the basis of that, again, is obedience. One of our lecturers from the Anantapur campus, one of our seniors, she narrates this beautiful episode where one day she is in the interview room and Swami looks at her and asks, what do you want? Right? That's the million-dollar question when Swami asks you, what do you want? And she's thrilled and she looks at Swami and says, Swami, please give me devotion. Swami, please give me devotion. Swami says, no, that is not the right prayer. And she's surprised. I mean, that's the highest thing that you can ask for. I would think that's the highest thing to ask for. Swami said, no. Why are you asking for devotion? Swami said. And she said, because Swami, in life we constantly have to make choices. And we have to constantly make choices that will please Swami. And for that I need more and more devotion. So I want devotion. And Swami said, no, wrong prayer. See, you have devotion, that's why you have made this choice. Which means that's why you have given Swami this role in your life. Because of devotion, you have made this choice. Then she said, Swami, then what should I pray for? What should I ask for? Swami said, ask for obedience. Ask for obedience, Swami said. There is this senior of mine, I think, who still is working in the ashram. He studied in Swami's school. He completed his 12th standard. And as all of us do, he went up to Swami and said, Swami, what should I do? Which course should I take? And Swami looks at him and says, I think you've studied enough. Stop studying with this. And he said, Swami, just 12th standard, I need to do some degree or some graduation, post-graduation. Swami said, no, this is enough. Schooling is enough for you. Now all kinds of things are running in this boy's mind. People will not respect me in this world. If I don't have a degree, they'll think I'm a school dropout, right? That's the fear we get. So he said, Swami, let me do some course, at least a BA, BSc, something I'll do. And Swami said, hey, what do you want to do after you finish your education? He said, Swami, I want to serve you in whatever capacity you choose for me. To serve me, this is enough. Stop with schooling. So this boy said, Swami, I want to serve you and I definitely will serve you, but let me do something, just for the sake of the respect that I'll get from this world. Then Swami looks at him very firmly and says, do you trust me or not? He says, do you trust me? And he says, yes, Swami, I trust you. Then I am telling you, this is enough. Will you listen to me? Imagine this boy's, should you say intelligence, should you say audacity? He looks at Swami and says, Swami, I will follow, but you should give me a boon. He says, I will follow, but you should give me a boon. Imagine, here is Swami giving us an instruction which is best for us, and to follow that, we want a reward. We want an incentive. Swami said, boon, what do you want? What a beautiful prayer he made that day. He said, Swami, the next time, don't give me a choice. The next time when you choose what is right for me, make me follow it. Don't give me a choice. Right? So the best thing to pray for is, yes, we have devotion. If not for devotion, we wouldn't be sitting here. If not for devotion, we will not be thinking of Him. But having got that devotion, Swami says, now pray for obedience. And there are many, many ways by which we can start this process. Right? We don't have to straight away start with the highest principles. Swami talks about great things, right? We can start with simple things. Many times we have this confusion, especially we walk into a Sai center, we walk into the ashram. A lot of people ask this question. We lead our life in a certain way in the Sai center. We dress in a certain way in a Sai center. We carry ourselves in a different way, which is very different from the way we live outside. Isn't it hypocritical? Yes, it is, no doubt. But it is better. At least you have a controlled environment where you can follow this. At least you have a controlled environment where you can step in and start learning to try it out, isn't it? Because these are all slow things. As I said, these are all small messages that you give to the mind, that this is important to me. Swami is important to me. Swami's words are important to me. Swami's choices are important to me. Swami's likes and dislikes are important to me. And when we do that, He will come and hold your hand. For each person, the path will be customized. But for that, first we should want Swami to play that role. We should ask for obedience. We must obey. Start with these small changes in our lives, and then slowly the mind will start cooperating with us. And when He starts testing, that's the next phase that all of us devotees have gone through, isn't it? Swami would shower so much love, Swami would show so much kindness. But suddenly will come a time when we are going through the toughest phase in our life, and Swami seems to be nowhere around. And we wonder, where have you vanished? Swami, you said you will hold my hand, you said you will stand by my side, but I'm going through this toughest phase and I don't see you around. Where are you? As one of my teachers said, he could be the best teacher, he could be the kindest teacher, but when you're writing an exam, he will not come and tell you the answer. When he plays the role of an invigilator, he will not come and tell you the answer. He will just stand there and let you take the test. And one of my professors, very beautifully, he said, what is the role then Swami plays? Imagine you're sitting there and writing an exam. Your teacher, he becomes the invigilator, and he comes and stands by your side. He can't tell you the answer because that becomes malpractice. He can't reveal you anything, he cannot help you with the paper, but he just stands there and he sees you writing your exam. And there's some problem that you're solving, and you've got the right answer. And this teacher said, imagine the invigilator just pats you on your back and says, good boy. Imagine the confidence that will come with that one pat. He says that is the role Swami plays in our life. He will he'll let you take the test. And when you get it right, just that one word of Mencari Bangaru, good, you've done it well, you've done it well. That will give so much confidence, isn't it? Because when we go through a difficult time, when we go through tribulations and tests, the rule is that he cannot come and help us. A good teacher would not do that, isn't it? Because the learning is an important process that each one of us have to go through. But he will stand by your side and he will tell you that I'm there for you. So even when we are going through the toughest phase in our life, he might not be around, but be sure that he is there beside us, watching over us. Because as Swami said, if I'm the one who's your teacher, your failure is my failure, isn't it? When I am your teacher, if you fail, that shows poorly on me. So I am always with you even when you're going through that test. This is one aspect of surrender where we look at Swami and say, Swami, I want you to play all these roles for me in my life. So when we give this role to him, when he gives us the command, we have to take it beyond any other argument. There is no argument. What Swami says is the final word. But that is the relationship we have to strike with him. Swami doesn't say that. Right? Swami doesn't force surrender on us. But we must, out of our wisdom, say that this is the right thing to do. When he gives you a command, he will give you the strength. But you must want to obey him. Right? We must want to obey him. And that wanting to obey him will come only with love, isn't it? Nothing else. How much ever I am desirous of my spiritual progress, that obedience will not come from that. It will only come from deep love and craving for Swami. And Swami would say that love and craving is the fire which can burn every vice in this heart. That love is the fire that will make you progress. It's like that fire in this engine which will make you move ahead every day, every step of your life. And Swami said, Chaipatti kapadute vratamunako. I'll hold your hand and take you, but you should give me your hand. You should stretch out and say, Swami, I want to hold your hand. I'll probably end with a beautiful, beautiful shloka, poem that Swami is saying. Those of you who heard me before will know that I always like to recite this poem. It's a Telugu poem. I will tell it in Telugu and I'll also translate it. Swami says, Chikkina Sayini Vakkaleyaka Chakka Chesukondi. Chikkina Sayini Vakkaleyaka Chakka Chesukondi. The Swami that you have caught, without losing him, hold him tight. Vakkaleyaka, don't lose this opportunity. Chikkina Sayi, you don't know how this opportunity has come. We don't know how it has come to us. But having got it, hold tight to it. Having held his hand, hold it tight. Don't let go. Chikkina Sayini Vakkaleyaka Chakka Chesukondi. Don't give up. Then Swami says, Poina Dorukadu I Partisuni Pada Sevayandi. If you lose it now, there is no guarantee it is coming back again. Swami says, if you lose this opportunity of Pada Seva now, there is no guarantee it is coming back. And Swami would beautifully explain what is the true meaning of Pada Seva. It is not sitting at the feet and pressing or massaging the feet. It is following in the footstep of the Master. Poina Durkadu I Partisuni Pada Sevayandi. If you lose this opportunity, it might not come back again. Then Swami says, Eka Manasuto Nammi Sayini Yenchi Kuluva Bondi. Eka Manasuto, with one-pointedness, Nammi Sayini, with faith. That is what we mean by saying that you should take his word beyond the Shabda Pramana, isn't it? That you don't doubt his word at any instance in life. That complete faith and one-pointed faith. Eka Manasuto Nammi Sayini Inchi Kuluva Bondi. Don't worship me in bhajans, don't worship me by offering flowers. I'm not saying don't do that. But Swami says, if you really want to worship me with this one-pointed faith. Eka manasuto nammi sayini inchi koluvupondi. And Swami beautifully says, Itarula matala nimpuga nammi kompa tiyakandi. Unnecessarily don't listen to everybody's words and confuse yourself. Because nobody's words is actually as pure, as selfless, as redeeming as his words. Swami says, imagine you're going on a trek to the Manasarovar. Manasarovar is supposed to be the purest form of water. I'm sure we all will do that. Walking up to Manasarovar, it's a huge trek, it's a very difficult trek. You go to the purest source of water, and there we will take a bottle like this and drink that water. You've gone to the purest form of water, you've gone to the source of water. You've gone to Gangotri, where the water is crystal clear. Do you want to go there and drink some packaged drinking water? Why do you want to listen to others' words when you have Swami's words? What a blessing it is. I cannot get myself over this idea that today I can pull out my phone, click a button, and I can hear Swami's voice. When was the last time mankind was so fortunate that with a click of a button you could hear the voice of God anytime, anywhere? That is the blessing Swami has given us. We can hear his own voice, the voice with that passion, with that pain that you're not listening to him. With that, Swami will be pleading, do this, follow this. Swami has given us that opportunity. Swami says, don't fill your head with others' advice and others. Don't even fill it with his words, whatever I've been saying so far. Take Swami's word and hold it as precious. In the final line, the most beautiful, Swami says, Bhaktini ichi, Shaktilo munchi, Mukti jerchunandi. I will give you bhakti. I will give you the Shakti which is required. I'll give you the strength which is required. And I will take you right till the goal. Swami says, Bhaktini ichi shaktilo munchi. I will immerse you in all the strength that is required for this journey. And I will take you right till the last step. Can there be a more profound assurance than this? Can Swami give a promise more than this? When we were students, when we used to sing songs to Swami or write letters to Swami, and Swami, this life is for you, we are living for you, we are ready to live for you, die for you. When Swami is a little upset, Swami will speak a little more truthfully. Swami will say, don't do all this drama. Natakam, Swami will hold his hair and say, Inta mandi chusanra, I have seen these many people. Swami would say, don't tell things which you don't mean. You don't mean these things. Don't tell me things that you don't mean. And Swami would add, I am not like that. Whatever I say, I mean it. I am Satya Sai Baba. What I say is Satya. So many times Swami would stand there in that portico, and any number of times Swami has said this, what I say, I mean it. When I say this is my promise, it is my promise for eternity. Swami says, I will take you right till the end. The only thing that what we have to do is, we should want Swami to play that role in our life. We must want to obey Swami. It is not easy to obey Swami, right? Because we are not in control of our mind. But Swami says, I will give you all the strength. I will immerse you in that strength. Shaktilo munchi mukti jerchunandi. This Swami will take you to mukti. And that's what is the topic for the day, isn't it? Follow my command, not my command. Follow his command and reach the goal.